Ladies and gentlemen, the Madras High Court today has ordered the centre to unblock or restore access to a Tamil media website, Ananda Vikatan, but with a rider that the website needs to remove the controversial cartoon of Prime Minister Modi. Essentially, a cartoon where Prime Minister Modi's hands are seen shackled while sitting next to President Trump. The judge said that the public access to the entire website necessarily need not be blocked, as the court is yet to decide whether the cartoon would come under freedom of expression and freedom of speech or whether it affects the friendly relations with foreign nations. The INB ministry had blocked the public access to the site 5 days after its release and eventually stated that it was under Section 69A of the IT Act. For now, Ananda Vikatan has removed the cartoon while court decides the further course. Ananda Vikatan has said they will fight against curtailing journalistic freedom. But there are a series of such cases. Remember the 2022 memes against Mamta Banerjee, a 29-year-old YouTuber was arrested. In 2022 itself, a caricature of Prime Minister Modi was displayed. 5 people, including a press owner and an event organizer, were arrested. 2022 itself, a mimicry act of Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah was seen in poor light, and the mimicry artist was arrested in Madhya Pradesh. In 2021, cartoons criticizing COVID mismanagement, and the government had asked Twitter to take down Manjul's cartoons. 2020, satirical drawings criticizing judiciary, when Supreme Court's notice against Rachita Taneja. In 2018, casteist cartoon against Pinarayi Vijayan, legal notices served. 2018, in fact, there was another case where DMK members were depicted as apes, and court went on to quash the complaint against the cartoonist. BJP and Prime Minister Modi were criticized in a folk song in 2018, and the Tamil song, or the Tamil folk singer, in fact, was arrested. There are several such cases. We also have instances where Mamta Banerjee, in fact, went on there were some displays of cartoons and statements against Mamta Banerjee, and eventually people were arrested even in those cases. So there have been such instances in the past across political lines as well. The reason why we are stating this is just to put the precedence to it as well. It's important, even as the latest controversy, of course, is Ananda Vikatan's, what they called the cartoon. And these are just some that we really picked up. So where's the line? Are cartoons in chains? What happens when inks meet ego? Political satire meets political ego. What's freedom of expression? What's sedition or undermining national sovereignty? What is Article 69A of the IT Act? We have our experts to take us through it all. But first, let me introduce you to our panelists. Let me straight up take you to Aseem Trivedi, who joins us. If you remember, he was arrested in 2012, charged with sedition, with the charges later getting dropped as ordered for by the court. He was accused of banners mocking the Indian Constitution during the Anna Hazare rally in Mumbai. He was also charged with posting seditious and obscene content on his website, which was blocked. Cartoons like the one where the activist altered the three-lion national emblem, in which he perceived as a satirical depiction to highlight corruption, attracted sedition charges for that matter. Very good evening, Mr. Aseem Trivedi. Thank you very much for joining us. He's a documentary Indian political cartoonist as well as an activist. I'm also being joined by Dinakar Lanka, who's a BJP leader, Pawan Duggal, who's a cyber security expert, Subhash Jha, who's an advocate, as well as Tehseen Poonawala, who's a political analyst. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Well, let me straight come to you first, Mr. Aseem Trivedi. What are your first reactions? आपके पहले reactions क्या है when you hear of what has happened over the last few hours, over the last few days, particularly with Ananda Vikatan in this case? How do you look at it? What are your reactions to this?
मेरे ख्याल से जैसा हम सारे देश के मीडिया के साथ देख रहे हैं, सब तरह की मीडिया के साथ, वैसा ही इस केस में भी हो रहा है, कोई बहुत अलग नहीं है। सच कहें तो बहुत चौंकाने वाला नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी सिर्फ एक कार्टून की वजह से पूरी वेबसाइट को ऐसे ब्लॉक कर देना। और जैसा जहाँ तक मैंने कार्टून के बारे में सुना, क्योंकि मैंने अभी तक देखा नहीं है, वो कहीं है ही नहीं, वेबसाइट तो ब्लॉक है, तो उसको देख के भी लगता है कि उसमें ऐसा कुछ नहीं है जो देश के जो फॉरेन रिलेशंस हैं उनको डिस्टर्ब कर सके या देश की छवि को ख़राब कर सके। अगर आप वो जो कार्टून है जिसमें कहा जा रहा है कि भारत के प्राइम मिनिस्टर और अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट हैं, अगर आप अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट के कार्टून सर्च करेंगे जो यूएस में छपते हैं, वहाँ बनाए जाते हैं, तो आप दंग रह जाएंगे कि कितनी बुरी तरह से कार्टूनिस्ट जो हैं वो धज्जियाँ उड़ाते हैं वहाँ के प्रेसिडेंट के, उनका मजाक बनाते हैं, उन पर अटैक करते हैं, और यही कार्टूनिस्ट का काम है। तो वाकई में ये हैरत की बात है। और हालांकि कोर्ट ने भी वेबसाइट को रिस्टोर करने के लिए कहा है, तो ये अच्छी बात है। हमेशा कोर्ट से ही सहारा मिलता है, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच को, हमेशा जर्नलिस्ट को, हमेशा कार्टूनिस्ट को। और दूसरी बात है कि अभी उन्होंने कार्टून के बारे में भी ऐसा कोई बात नहीं कही है, ये कहा है कि वो इस पर फिर बात करेंगे। मेरे ख्याल से यहाँ पर कोर्ट को भी समझना चाहिए कि कार्टून के बारे में बात नहीं की जा सकती है, डिसीजन नहीं दिया जा सकता है। ये एक आर्टिस्टिक फ्रीडम है जहाँ पे आप लाइंस नहीं ड्रॉ कर सकते असल में कुछ भी। और मुझे लगता है कि जब भी वो दोबारा बात करने जा रहे हैं 2 मार्च को या जब भी 2 अप्रैल को, तो शायद वो इसके फेवर में बात करेंगे, उस कार्टून के फेवर में भी बात करेंगे, क्योंकि जितना सुनने में आ रहा है ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं लग रहा है कि उसमें डिस्टर्बिंग।
असीम त्रिवेदी जी, आपके केस में सेडिशन के चार्जेस डाले गए थे 2012 में। 2004 आई थिंक 2015 ने कोर्ट ने वो चार्जेस ड्रॉप किए। अभी आपका स्टेटस लीगली, आर यू एक्विटेड ऑफ दिस? व्हाट इज द स्टेटस इन योर केस, असीम त्रिवेदी?
मेरे खिलाफ 3 चार्जेस थे, जिसमें से एक सेडिशन तो संविधान से ही बाहर चला गया, और एक एक्ट था, आईटी एक्ट का एक सेक्शन था 66 से, वो भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने संविधान से हटा दिया है, स्क्रैप कर दिया। एक धारा मेरे खिलाफ अभी भी पेंडिंग है जो नेशनल सिंबल्स के इंसल्ट को लेके थी, और वो केस अभी भी मुंबई में चल रहा है। तो अब 13 साल करीब बीत चुके हैं और मुकदमा अभी भी जारी है।
जी जी, असीम त्रिवेदी जी, एक सवाल। वेबसाइट, तमिल वेबसाइट ने बोला है कि वो अपना जो स्ट्रगल है टू एंश्योर जर्नलिस्टिक फ्रीडम, वो उसको जारी रखेंगे। बट but how do you look at the fact that 69A of IT Act was used to block access of the entire Tamil website for that matter? It was not that the cartoon was asked to be removed. The access to the website was blocked, and that's what the court has said. We will decide, we will look into whether the cartoon is journalistic freedom, is freedom of expression, or whether the national sovereignty has been undermined. That's something that is sub judice, court decide karega wo. लेकिन कोर्ट कह रहा है कि इसके लिए आपको पूरा वेबसाइट को ब्लॉक करने की, पब्लिक एक्सेस को उससे हटाने की जरूरत नहीं है. How do you look at this particular part of what the court has said?
मेरे ख्याल से कोर्ट ने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा कि पूरी वेबसाइट को कैसे क्यों ब्लॉक करना, लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से अगर आप देखें तो क्यों किया गया होगा। जाहिर सी बात है कि आप अगर डर फैलाना चाहते हैं मीडिया में, और चाहते हैं कि बहुत सारे मीडिया ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ऐसा कुछ कदम उठाने से भी डरें कि फिर केवल उस कंटेंट के खिलाफ कुछ नहीं होगा, बल्कि समूचे कंटेंट के खिलाफ, पूरी वेबसाइट के खिलाफ, उनके पूरे प्लेटफॉर्म के खिलाफ कुछ हो जाएगा, तो मेरे ख्याल से शायद ये एक ऐसा कदम है जो ऑफकोर्स एक बहुत एक्सट्रीम स्टेप है, सिर्फ एक कार्टून के लिए पूरी वेबसाइट को ब्लॉक करना। जी।
ओके, असीम त्रिवेदी जी, आपके साथ ये 2012 में केस लगा था. दिस इज 2025. Political dispensations have changed, but do you see any change? Do you see any change in how these cases are handled? Because a lot is said, but because this was a case that happened with you in 2012, it would be interesting to see how do you look at this case in 2025. What's happening? The allegations that are going. How do you see? Has anything changed for you?
ऑफकोर्स चीज़ें बदली हैं। अगर आप ऐसे ओवरऑल देखें तो उस वक्त में ऑफकोर्स वो केस हुआ था, मगर आप जनरली आप जर्नलिस्टिक फ्रीडम को ऐसे नहीं देखते थे कि वो इतनी बुरी स्थिति में है, लोग अपने मन से बात कह पा रहे थे, मीडिया कहीं अधिक फ्री थी। अभी की स्थिति बहुत दयनीय है। मुझे लगता है कि अगर उन कार्टूनिस्ट के ऊपर कोई केस हुआ होता, जैसे उनको पूरी वेबसाइट को अनब्लॉक करने के लिए कोर्ट में जाना पड़ा, तो मेरे ख्याल से उस टाइम ऐसा नहीं था कि पूरी मीडिया ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की वेबसाइट को ब्लॉक कर दिया जाता किसी ऐसे कार्टून के लिए जो इतना ऑफेंसिव लग भी नहीं रहा है जितना उसके बारे में सुनने में अब तक आ रहा है। तो अभी की सिचुएशन ज़्यादा बुरी है। और ये तो फिर भी एक मीडिया ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की हम बात कर रहे हैं जो अपने आप को डिफेंड कर सकता है, लॉयर्स ले सकता है, कोर्ट में जा सकता है। अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल होता है, और अब बहुत सारे लोगों के बारे में आप सुनते हैं, कुछ कार्टूनिस्ट जो अभी भी एक्टिव हैं, अच्छे से अपनी बात कह रहे हैं सरकार के खिलाफ, आए दिन उनको नोटिस मिलता है कि वो उनका कंटेंट हटाने की रिक्वेस्ट आई है इंडियन गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से। उस वक्त भी ये होता था कि आईटी एक्ट की बहुत सारी धाराओं को वो लोग मिसयूज़ करते थे, चाहे वो कंटेंट हटाना हो, उसको ब्लॉक करना हो, और चाहे वो फिर इस तरह के 66 वगैरह में उनके खिलाफ वारंट डालना या फिर उनके खिलाफ एफआईआर दर्ज करना हो गया। तो वो पहले भी हो रहा था, फिर वो अभी भी हो ही रहा है। इस पूरे टाइम में मतलब मेरे ख्याल से वो प्रैक्टिस जारी है। अभी तो ऐसा भी होता है कि कोई हैशटैग चल रहा है जिसको रोकना है, तो एक तरफ से बिना किसी स्क्रीनिंग के वो आउटसोर्स कर दिया जाता है और वो कंटेंट पूरा का पूरा ब्लॉक होने लगता है। और बीच में एक केस भी चर्चा में आया था जो एक्स और इंडियन गवर्नमेंट के बीच में था, जो इस बारे में था कि एक्स ने ये कहा था कि उनको बार बार मजबूर किया जा रहा है कंटेंट हटाने के लिए। तो मुझे लगता है कि इंडियन ऑडियंस के पास या लोगों के पास, भारत की जनता के पास जो अपनी बात कहना चाहते हैं, उनके पास तो अपने आप को डिफेंड करने के लिए भी फेयर चांसेस नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि ट्विटर जैसे एक्स जैसे प्लेटफॉर्म्स खड़े होकर भले वो कोर्ट में लड़ रहे हों लोगों की फ्री स्पीच के लिए, चाहे उसकी जो भी वजह हो, लेकिन आमतौर पे अभी के समय में भारतीय जनता या भारतीय जर्नलिज्म इतना मजबूर है कि मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो अभी इसके लिए काफ़ी है कि आवाज़ उठा पाए। मुझे लगता है कि जो डिबेट अभी आप कर रहे हैं, अगर ये और कोई मतलब ऐसा मामला शायद होता कि जो और चर्चा में होता या और गंभीर कार्टून होता, तो मेरे ख्याल से ये डिबेट भी मुश्किल थी इस मुद्दे को उठाना। या फिर ये भी कह सकते हैं आने वाले कुछ सालों में आप यकीन मानिए कि ऐसी डिबेट नहीं देखने को मिलेंगी। मुझे लगता है कि अगर मैं अब गिरफ्तार हुआ होता इस वक्त में, तो जैसा उस समय मुझे सपोर्ट मिला था तमाम जर्नलिस्ट की तरफ से, तमाम प्रेस काउंसिल की तरफ से, लोगों की तरफ से, खासकर मीडिया की तरफ से, कि मीडिया ने आइडेंटिफाई किया था कि ये कार्टूनिस्ट के खिलाफ हुआ मामला है, तो उनको आगे आना चाहिए। मेरे ख्याल से अभी के समय में वो होना मुश्किल होता है, ये बात हम सब जानते हैं। तो हम एक अलग युग में आ गए हैं। इंडिया जैसी लार्जेस्ट डेमोक्रेसी, जिसकी एक अलग तरह का मतलब रिस्पेक्ट है इस वजह से कि हम बहुत तरह के विचार रखते हैं और फिर भी साथ में रहते हैं, शायद उसके लिए ये उसकी इमेज को बहुत बदलने वाला है। ये वो नहीं है जो इंडिया जैसे देश की इमेज के साथ सूट करता है। जिस पायदान पे हम खड़े हैं, चाहे हम प्रेस फ्रीडम इंडेक्स में देखें जितना तेज़ी से हम लगातार नीचे जा रहे हैं, तो ये सब कुछ बहुत चिंताजनक है।
असीम त्रिवेदी जी, थैंक यू। आप हमारे साथ बने रहिएगा, पर हम आप बिकॉज दिस वाज अ केस वेयर you had a very similar case. It was important to get your perspective on this. We are going to continue our debate. Please stay on with us if you can. Please feel free to, respond to whatever you would have had to in terms of what panelists would be saying here. But let me at this point get in Dinakar Lanka. Dinakar Lanka, please respond to what Asim Trivedi has said. Asim Trivedi very clearly saying times have changed and there seems to be a concerted act, targeted act. How would you respond to what Asim Trivedi has said?
I observed that partly true, partly because case to case it varies. Whether if you want to give a judgment, definitely you need to know the facts. Nobody has seen the cartoon what exactly it was. If there is no derogative, High Court may not give direction to remove the cartoon, including that cartoon that website might be allowed pertaining to the Ananda Vikatan. So it is we should not give as a blanket statement, and I don't rely on the ranking of Western countries which give out to our media, because we know that through NGOs, various media and media persons, various leftist oriented intellectuals have been encouraged through NGOs funding from Western countries. They want to create their narrative in our country. It is not happening since 2014. It becomes a very huge pressure. They are feeding some people who are getting funds from the Western countries.
Dinakar Lanka, I apologize. I'm going to interrupt you, Dinakar Lanka, for only one reason. Your audio is terrible. I would have wanted to stay on with you for some more time, but it's very important for us and the viewers to be able to understand what you're speaking. So I'm going to get off you for a bit, sir, only so that your audio can be sorted up. I request my team to please get in touch with Dinakar Lanka and sort this audio issue. It's absolutely inaudible. I mean, it's just not clear. So apologies for that. But let me get in at this point, Subhash Jha. Subhash Jha, take us through legally what's happened in the court today. The court is saying there's no need to there's no need to block access or public access to this website based on one cartoon. How significant is what the court has said?
See, the court has said about one cartoon in which the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, has been shown in a poor light, sitting in front of Donald Trump. The most powerful Prime Minister of India is shown in such a poor light. And that too, we have seen recently when Prime Minister of India visited US. Donald Trump went behind him and pulled his chair to make him, to sit on the chair. And this is the respect which our Prime Minister gets by the most, or one of the most powerful leaders in the world. And this is how, if you portray, now don't forget that Prime Minister of India is not only the Prime Minister of few people, he is Prime Minister of the country, he is the brand ambassador. And therefore, if a brand ambassador of the country who leads from the front is shown in such a poor light, then I think the information ministry, the concerned ministry was justified in taking it off the hook, the banning the internet from its operation. Now, what the High Court seems to have done is, the High Court tried to find out via media that pull out those objectionable caricature and then allow it to function for the time being. Now, ultimately, it is the matters will be argued from the Government Union of India also, and from the other side also, and ultimately it will be decided. But I'm raising a question as to how do you otherwise have a control? Freedom of speech and freedom of expression under Article 19 does not certainly mean that you have complete freedom of doing and undoing anything and everything. Now, something which Section 69A, under which the action has been taken by the government, is precisely meant for this situation. Now, if there is a security issue, sovereignty issue, public order, then certainly such powers can be exercised by the Union of India, and that is what they seems to have done. Now, whether those powers, the measures were harsh or otherwise, it could be debated. But not that the government does not have the power to control. And in a fit case like this, in my assessment, such drastic action or maybe more severe action has to be taken recourse to. Otherwise, how do you send a message loud and clear that, look here, never ever portray our Prime Minister or the brand ambassador in such a poor light, because it also affects the international diplomatic relationship with our friendly country like US. So therefore, these are the issues. These are serious issues, and I don't think that anybody, young man and women, entering into this arena of making videos and putting it on the internet, and then which certainly many times has far-reaching consequences, and that has to be taken into account. And there has to be a regulation. Therefore, I've been saying for quite some time now that there has to be regulation not only for such internet users, I mean those who put up their creation on internet, but so also for the media. There has to be a regulator. There is a regulator for everyone. Why should not there be a regulator for also press? Freedom of speech, freedom of expression does not mean unlimited, uncontrolled freedom. It always comes with some restrictions, and these are self-imposed restrictions. So what if the press does not take recourse to imposition of self-imposed restrictions? The government will have to step in. There is no doubt about it.
Tehseen Poonawalla, come in at this point, Tehseen Poonawalla. You just heard Subhash Jha. Now, Subhash Jha is saying, listen, where does one draw the line? The entire, the Prime Minister is being insulted. International relations, diplomatic ties are going to be affected. Do you believe that a cartoon could do that?
I believe a cartoon could do that just like I believe in unicorns. That's sarcastic. Oh, will this be taken off air? Will I be arrested like Asim Trivedi? I just mocked the government of India. So if I'm going to be arrested, just let me know. I will definitely not have Subhash Jha defending me because he believes people should be arrested and government should have control. Look, freedom of speech ends where violence begins. That is the only line to be drawn. You don't like a cartoon, please don't look at it. You don't like a website, log out of the website. You don't like a channel, please change the channel. You don't like a painting, leave the art gallery. You don't like a movie, don't watch the movie. You don't like a book, shut the book and keep it away. The government cannot be a super nanny. Yes, the Prime Minister is my representative. I cheered for the Prime Minister when he went to the US. But like any democratic country, I have the right to criticize my Prime Minister, to ask critical questions. Is this also infringing on the Prime Minister's rights, the government's rights, yesterday Donald Trump said that he's declaring a tariff war with India from April 2nd? Come on, Mr. Jha, come on. It is my right, and I will fail my right and my duty in the opposition if I don't question my Prime Minister. I have to do it. I haven't seen the said cartoon, but I have an advice for the BJP. I think the BJP always overreacts. The Prime Minister is such a global leader, he's such a statesman. Why should one cartoon affect him or affect a great democracy like India? We often call it one of the oldest civilizations in the world, which our nation is, and it's the largest democracy in the world. The United States is the oldest democracy in the world. You think the oldest democracy in the world and the largest democracy in the world and one of the oldest civilizations in the world are going to be affected by a cartoon on a website? I also have an issue with the honorable judge. The cartoon should have remained. Look, every time we decide to ban things, we decide to put things away, we decide to compromise. That's not the way it works. You have to first banning that website was wrong. Second,
Tehseen, while you've made your point, let me ask you one more. Let me just ask you one more question. Yes, you're criticizing the BJP on this. Yes, you are saying the BJP was extremely harsh. But is this a BJP problem alone? Because we've had instances under Mamata Banerjee. We've had instances even in under Chief Minister Stalin. We've also had instances, going back. Every political party brings it back to Nehru. But even despite what he is known as often a very tolerant stand, there have been some controversies here and there, even under his time. You have right now with us Asim Trivedi. This happened. What happened with him? He was arrested in 2012.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
UPA.
he says, even though this happened in 2012 with him, a lot has changed since then and now. But how do you look at it? Is this a BJP problem alone?
Let me address Asim's things first, and then let me come. Because I'm a supporter of the Congress, I vote for the Congress. When this happened with Asim, I stood up for Asim. It was wrong. What did he do? He made a cartoon of the Parliament of India. And I remember the then Mumbai commissioner, who is now, by the way, a BJP member of parliament, completely went after Asim and arrested him on sedition charges. For what? For making a cartoon? Look, I just want to show your viewers this, if you can get me a close-up. This is the Constitution of India. The first three words of this book is we the people. Not I the Prime Minister, not I the President, not I the Leader of Opposition, not I the Chief Justice of India, not I anybody else, not even God. It is we the people. We the people have the power. The idea that freedoms can be restricted without violence is dangerous. And you're right, Sneha, every government is draconian. Every government does this. The problem, Sneha, is a bad idea that happened in Asim's time becomes worse. Once you accept bad, it doesn't take long for a bad idea to spread and become progressively worse. That's what's happened. So what was not acceptable in Asim's time has become even worse right now. By all governments, let me not just blame the BJP. Why are we the people giving the government so much power over us? If the Prime Minister went to the United States of America and he did phenomenally well, the people of India will support him and vote him. If somebody criticizes him, they will criticize him. Why are we so thin-skinned? What is wrong? And where does it say that I cannot criticize my Prime Minister or my opposition leader? Let me do it. And if they have a problem with it, they will deal with it. This cannot be state coming in. And there's one issue with this section 69, with lack of judicial review before it being used, and a committee that is appointed by the government. It gives the government draconian powers to cut down our liberties. Between life and liberty, Sneha, I, Tehseen, would choose liberty, not life. What is happening? The whole reason we became independent is for our liberty. And we are so okay to let go of liberty and have lawyers defend it.
I think Dinkar Langa, please come in at this point. Dinkar Langa, please come in. Please respond to Tehseen Poonawalla.
Media ranking is concerned, speak about a few minutes back. Our court is. I don't accept the international media, Western media, those who give the ranks, because we know that through NGOs, they create narratives by providing funding facility. After the FCNRA amendments, they are making hue and cry. It is very clear. And then very hard of showing constitution, and they are
Sir, where is funding coming in this case, though?
Like Poonawalla ji, it becomes a fashion nowadays. I have seen so many times, even Rahul Gandhi also obeyed similar way. Can Poonawalla give his justification if somebody trespass some other houses, some other person's house, and nothing violation, no violence happened, nothing happened, but it is legitimate? Can he make such kind of justification?
Let me explain this basic. Let me explain the basics. Let me explain this.
These are two different things. Can you see them differently, Dinkar Lanka? We've not given Dinkar Lanka some time. So let's just give Dinkar Lanka his time. Let me ask you the question again. Do you not see a difference between trespassing into somebody's house and making a cartoon on something? Do you not? Is there no difference for you in the two?
Whether it is in written script or image, whatever it is, if it communicates in a derogatory manner or which threatens the sovereignty and integrity of our nation and which makes adverse impact on foreign relation, definitely the union government step in. Even Honorable High Court has been allowed to remove that particular cartoon means. Definitely they feel that it is not up to standard. Otherwise, that particular cartoon might be continued.
No, that's something that the court is deciding, Dinkar Lanka. The court has said they will decide about that. So that is sub judice. But what the court has said is that the entire website does not need to be blocked because of that.
Outcome pertaining to
two different things.
Total judgment is sub judice. Whether it is true or not, that particular cartoon has removed or not. If it is not derogatory, definitely it might be continued. So it is.
But the court has gone on to say the website does not need to be blocked because of that. Okay, Tehseen Poonawalla, go ahead, respond. 30 seconds and then I need to go to Pawan Duggal.
This is so basic. How can you compare trespassing my private property with a website that makes a cartoon? Number one. Number two, you don't like the cartoon, make a better cartoon glorifying the government of India, glorifying my Honorable Prime Minister. I have no issues with it. Make an AI-generated artwork of the Prime Minister and the government of India. Who's stopping you? But what logic does a cartoon in a local website affect the relationship between two countries? And for government, and I'll tell you what is the downfall of this government. Sir, Mr. Lanka, just 1 second. Mr. Lanka, just 1 second. Mr. Lanka, I don't debate like this. Please hold on 1 second. Please hold on. Mr. Lanka, don't do this. It's not the Republic of Nonsense. It's mirror now.
Hello. You need
Mr. Lanka, Mr. Lanka, please. I'm not giving
you lectures. Okay, both of you. Dinkar Lanka, I allowed you to continue despite Tehseen Poonawalla having interrupted you. So let's allow him this time. Tehseen, finish your point. Tehseen, finish your point.
Last point. Look, the question simply out here is, and I'll tell you what, this is where this is going wrong for the BJP. I think 99% of our great nation would not have seen this cartoon had they not blocked it. They wouldn't have seen that silly documentary on BBC had they not blocked it. I think the downfall of this government is the Babus. I seriously believe that. These Babus from the finance ministry to the INB ministry are ruining this government. Honestly, nobody would have seen this cartoon. Nobody would have cared about it until you guys decided to make it an issue. So stop doing it. People don't care. There are enough things for people to focus on.
I don't want to take any kind of lessons from Poonawala.
Dinakar Lanka.
Don't take,
Dinakar
Baba. I told you
Lanka,
what take.
Dinakar Lanka, here's Stacey asking you a question. Dinakar Lanka, here's the question. One cartoon at Ananda Vikatan. One cartoon, just a minute, Dinakar Lanka. One cartoon at Ananda Vikatan. How many people across the country would have had access compared to how many people today are going to be talking about it, Googling it, trying to find it out? Very quick, 30 seconds. I have to go to Pavan Dugal after this.
It is absolutely wrong notion, Sneha. Whether anybody access or not, that doesn't matter. How serious that is very important.
Okay.
If the particular content pertaining to the cartoon is not derogative, Honorable High Court may not give direction to remove it. That is very clear that as far as judgment is concerned, whether to block
But then the
entire
court does
website
allow
or
the website to continue
will decide
and
by
the access to be
Honorable High Court
restored.
after taking all kind of information, whatever the evidence produced by the union government advocate.
Okay. Pavan Dugal, please come in at this point. Pavan Dugal, for all the viewers who have been listening to this discourse and over the last few days will be hearing 69A of IT Act all over again. Tell us, what is the 69A of the IT Act? Break this down for us. What gives the power and what are the grounds on which the government can block any source?
Section 69A was added under the Indian Information Technology Act in the year 2008 by virtue of the 2008 amendments, immediately after the Mumbai attacks. This was so because the earlier law did not have any specific powers to deal with blocking of information. The earlier law only talked of interception of electronic records. So now Section 69A says that if the government is convinced that it is necessary or expedient to do under certain circumstances, which are the sovereignty and integrity of India, friendly relations with other nations, public order, decency, morality, or to prevent the commission of any offense, the government can direct blocking of such content, which effectively means that the content is not going away. It just is that the service providers within the country are being directed to block that particular content so that it's not viewable or cannot be seen by Indian users on devices or computers located within India. That's in a nutshell what this is. But clearly, while these grounds for blocking are very broad, it has to be ultimately seen that these grounds will ultimately be interpreted by the judiciaries of the country. It will be the courts who will determine whether in the peculiar facts and circumstances of each case, are these circumstances attracted? And if so, what should be the consequences? So while the matter is sub judice, we refrain from commenting on the merits of the matter. But yes, judicial review, the courts have complete powers to look at whether the order of blocking under Section 69A of the IT Act is sustainable in the eyes of law or not, or is it just subject to certain whims and fancies and based on certain hypotheses on surmises? That's something that the court will examine. But the fundamental question
to you. Is it based on whims and fancies?
The panelists are bang on target.
I mean, to you as well as Subhash Jha, both of you, I'm going to ask this question. First to you, Pavan Dugal, is it whims and fancies? How does one get to decide block this website, block this channel, block this source? How does one get to decide to do that?
First and foremost, it's established jurisprudence in the country that if there's something, it's established jurisprudence in the country that in case if there's something objectionable, only block that and not the complete website. This has been as a principle followed by almost all the high courts in the country. But the first erroneous approach is to block the complete website. Second thing is, now the court will have to determine whether the particular cartoon will or does come under the various parameters under Section 69A. But the government will be very, very hard to tend to justify that this is going to come into the broad issues. Look, it does not come in the interest of sovereignty or integrity of India. It also does not come under the security aspects. The only issue is whether it could be definable as a ground under friendly relations with other nations. Now, the fundamental question that the court will have to see is whether a cartoon can prejudicially impact the friendly relations with other nations, more so when the other nations are not prejudicially depicted in the cartoon as such. So we'll have to wait what the court says. But I think we have to, as nation, realize blocking is an outdated phenomenon. It's a 19th century mindset to a 21st century problem. It just does not work. On the contrary, any website you block, any cartoon you block, you are yourself instrumental in enhancing the quantum of internet traffic to the said blocked website, because everybody wants to have a curiosity. They want to know what's so special that it's been blocked. So I think rather than just dealing with this entire issue of blocking, people have to look at more innovative ways to deal with this scenario. Ultimately, you have to realize Indian users, the digital users, are very, very suave, very intelligent, and they are not going to be swayed away by a cartoon here or a cartoon there. But yes, in case if it's got some serious ramifications, there's no denying the fact that the government has the power to block. Of course, in this case, whether the power of blocking has been exercised correctly or not will have to be decided by the court. But ultimately, the court will have to balance between two competing interests, between national interest on the one hand and between ensuring that your fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression is not unnecessarily trammeled upon or curtailed by some kind of a state action. What that golden balance will be is something that only time will be able to tell, and for that we'll have to wait for the decision of the court.
Subhash Jha, please respond to Pawan Duggal, because you are also somebody who deals with cases such as this. You're also an advocate. I want to ask you this very specific question. You said Ananda Vikatan's case is a fit case for the website to be blocked. You have an expert like Pawan Duggal who is going on record to say that you could have the objectionable content removed till it's decided legally what course to be taken, but it's an excess to have the entire source blocked. How do you look at that?
In my assessment, if this is not a fit case for blocking the website itself, then which other case could be? Portraying our Prime Minister in such a bad light that he is chained in front of, sitting in front of the President of USA, with whom we have friendly relationship, is certainly portraying our Prime Minister, not only portraying the Prime Minister, but the country as a whole in such a poor light. And therefore, I'm sure, I mean, you asked earlier as to how does the Information and Broadcasting Ministry must be functioning. They must have got some input on their own, or some complaint must have been lodged with them, and they have taken cognizance of that in initiating this action. There is absolutely nothing wrong. See, I'm a lawyer, and I'm governed, or any lawyer for that matter, is governed under the Advocates Act. Sections 35 of Advocates Act deals with what is professional misconduct. Now, if somebody misconducts himself, he can be placed under suspension. So, for example, he portrays now, say, let us take an example. That same kind of caricature could have been made of a Chief Justice of India, or for that matter, any judge of a High Court. Now, what would be the punishment? The punishment would be, if we go by the same analogy, is pulling down that objectionable caricature from the website or from the publication, and then say that, okay, doesn't matter, you carry on further, and then you repeat the same offense. There has to be deterrence. And the deterrence is this. I don't agree with Mr. Duggal with respect to him. All he said was fine. But then this is not a problem. This is a problem of 21st century. And this is solution also is of 21st century. There has to be stringent laws meant for such YouTubers as well, or such websites as well, who do something without realizing its serious ramification which it could have in the country,
okay,
or on the Prime Minister of the country. Prime Minister means what? Brand Ambassador of India.
You know, I'm not getting into that particular aspect which you're bringing again and again in cartoon, but, you know, there are people who will ask how much of a ramification can one cartoon on a regional website really have on a prime minister of a nation? But that's a different argument, because I'm not getting into that specifically, because that's also sub judice. The court is going to decide whether this is something that does infringe this. And I'll just come to you. I want to go back to Dugal. He has a right to respond to Subhash, to Mr. Jha. So, Mr. Dugal, please respond to what you're hearing Mr. Jha say. I mean, and he also brought in this analogy of, say, a caricature against CJ. I don't want to get into that, because those are possibly just, rhetorical questions. The fact is, hopefully the CJI or the judges will not get upset with a caricature, but that's a very different domain. Mr. Dugal, go ahead. Please respond to what Mr. Jha said.
I think Mr. Jha is bang on target in terms of the power of the government. There's no doubt in that. The question is whether in a case like this entire power ought to have been exercised or not. Now, since the matter is sub judice, we'll again refrain from commenting on the same. But the fundamental issue is, even when the matter is going to be decided by the judiciary will look at two things. Number one, are the parameters for blocking under Section 69A satisfied? Have you fulfilled the process and procedure which is given under the IT blocking rules of 2009? Number two, even if the blocking has to be done, how do you balance the competing interests of freedom of speech and expression? And does creative freedom of speech and expression include potential censorship as well? What could be reasonable restrictions on freedom of speech and expression in the creative sense? Now, those are very contentious issues that we'll have to wait. Let us not pass our own judgments. Let's await what the courts say. But yes, both the sides have got very compelling arguments to argue before the court.
All right, I'm left with just 1 minute. Tehseen, please, if you could respond in 15 seconds, because I want Aseem Trivedi to make the last comments. Tehseen, go ahead.
The idea that the government thinks it can block something, the government is fooling nobody but itself. Like I said, until Tahir, your coordinator, called me up for this show, I didn't even hear about this cartoon. This cartoon's available everywhere. Nothing can be blocked on the internet. It's not possible to block anything on the internet. That's the first thing about it. TikTok's available everywhere. You can go through VPNs. I mean, you can say that you are blocking it. Pornography is blocked. It's available everywhere. The government is fooling nobody. In an era of blockchain and Web 3.0, you're not going to be able to block. What you need to do is what Mr. Pawan Duggal is saying. Two things: balance freedom of speech with reasonable restrictions, number one. Number two, what I am saying, the government should not be so thin-skinned. It's okay for people to criticize the government, even if the government is the ambassador of the people.
Tehseen, I'm going to interject you at this point. I'm sorry.
Fine. Sure.
Okay, Mr. Trivedi, I really don't have time. Maybe 10, 12 seconds to you, to everybody who says regulation is required. There has to be a law and and there needs to be a regulator for the media, for cartoonists, for expressions of such kinds. What would your response be? 12 seconds, I know it's very less, but bear with me.
मेरे ख्याल से अगर हम ऐसा करते हैं तो ये पहला कदम होगा या आखिरी कदम होगा एक तानाशाही की तरफ बढ़ने का। ये इसका जवाब इसमें खोजा जा सकता है इस सवाल का कि एक लोकतंत्र को, एक डेमोक्रेसी को एक ऑटोक्रेसी में, एक तानाशाही में कैसे बदलें, लोकतंत्र को कैसे तबाह करें। और झा जी जैसे एडवोकेट जब ऐसी बात करते हैं फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच को, वो एक एडवोकेट ही नहीं समझता है, इस देश के बड़े बड़े पढ़े लिखे लोग नहीं समझते हैं, तो फिर इस देश में क्या होने वाला है पता नहीं। हम लोकतंत्र को तबाह करने की बात कर रहे हैं, उस तरह की बातें सुन रहे हैं, उन बातों पर डिबेट कर रहे हैं। ये डिबेट के लायक ही नहीं है।
Go back to Mr. Jha, because Mr. Trivedi did mention it, but Mr. Jha, please allow me this. We've heard you enough. I really don't have time. Panelists, thank you very much for your time, for your very, very important perspectives. This is a debate that's open. It's going to be hard to find a closure, but all eyes at the court as they interpret this. To all of our panelists, thank you very much for your time and your perspectives. Apologies, I could not come back to those who've raised their hands. We're totally out of time. Thank you so much. It's time for a mid-break.